Welcome to everyone online and here today. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with me today. I'm honored that you're here. Richard Branson said, "Time is the new money, but I think time is the new trust." My goal today is to gain your trust by ensuring this workshop creates value in a short amount of time. I'll be drawing from my experiences working with small businesses, nonprofits, universities to guide our conversation today. And you'll leave with a clear roadmap for earning media and my templates to help you get started. So a little bit about me. We'll get that pulled up here. Let's see. Oh, and I'm supposed to be clicking it, see? Let's see, just a second. That was the one. Jumped in. There's my, so yes, we're here to create value and to respect your time, and looking forward to learning more about, hearing about your businesses, and also talking PR today. So a little bit about me. So from a young age, I love to write and interview people. I believe everyone has a compelling story to tell if they're asked the right questions. My passion for storytelling led me to start small business consulting, and I absolutely love it. I received my BA in journalism from Cal Poly Humboldt, and while I was there, I served as the student government PR director and elections commissioner. I created a campaign on why your vote matters, and we saw the highest student voter turnout percentage in the CSU system. I also helped save our graduation pledge for social and environmental responsibility from extinction, a program that started at our school and spread to over 200 campuses. This green ribbon of commitment is still worn at commencement decades later. I learned early on about the power of PR to influence decision-making, and as someone who cares deeply about justice, I was hooked. So I've worked in marketing and PR for about 30 years, and my media experience spans radio, print, and television. I've created PR campaigns that garnered awards in TV and print, and have been a magazine editor and a newspaper columnist. I've written and voiced commercials and honed my media experience as the head of programming and promotions for a Fox affiliate, where we were awarded Fox Affiliate of the Year due to our huge ratings growth. So I later served as the university's director of alumni relations and annual funds, which kept me active in the business community. And I've had to be bold and creative when budgets are scarce. This made me better, and it led me to this work. And I'm encouraging you that you can do it too. So I was a marketing and PR advisor with NorCal's SBDC for 8 years before relocating to the Central Coast. And I joined our local SBDC last summer, 2023. So a fun fact about this class is I taught a version of it in 2009 when MySpace was still the popular social media platform. So I'm excited for an updated version today. So let's see. There we go. Oh, and let me just mention. So what we will cover today, I've outlined all the sections we're going to do: earned media and the power of PR, and how press releases can help you grab that earned media we all want. We'll go step by step through the press release creation process and how AI can help. We'll discuss pitching and distributing your press release along with examples and templates, and why you need an online newsroom or press page. And we'll also cover digital press kit, share examples, and along the way, I'll add in some PR wins, including SBDC client success stories, then a Q&A, and links for the templates and resources. So I want to show you, so you don't feel like you have to take copious notes while I'm talking. I put together this folder that you'll get in the chat, and it's articles that talk about these templates as well as the templates I've created, further reading for startups, examples of successful PR campaigns with no money, and success stories, as well as my research that I share today, and additional information on that.
Sorry.
So let's get into it. Section 1, earned media and the power of PR. PR can help level the playing field between a startup and an established corporation. It can also launch an unheard of brand overnight for very little cost, thanks to the role of earned media in all our lives. So these are the topics we're going to talk about. Let's first talk about earned media versus paid media. Earned media versus paid media. So earned media is the publicity or exposure gained through organic means, aka free, such as media coverage, social media shares, and online reviews. It's essentially free publicity generated by positive word of mouth or third-party endorsements. Paid media, which costs money, is advertising or promotional content in traditional advertising channels we're familiar with, like print, TV, and radio. as well as digital advertising like social media ads, search engine marketing, and sponsored content. The key difference is that earned media is gained through credibility and relationships, while paid media is purchased.
Do we get notes or slides? Yeah, the whole thing. She's going to send that out.
Oh, at the end?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Thanks,
this is,
Kelly.
it's being recorded, and then at the end, you can have access to all the slides.
Okay.
And then the folder that will have the templates and resources, yeah. Yeah, I didn't want people to have, I hate when you do a presentation and you have to just take tons of notes. I want people to be able to be fully in paying attention. And so, yeah, anything you need that I maybe forgot to provide also at the end, feel free to reach out as well. So earned media is crucial for building your brand. Earned media builds trust, credibility, and social proof, which is where positive feedback. Is it that loud? Okay. I hope I'm not shouting to everyone at home that's listening online. So positive feedback like testimonials influences others. It also boosts SEO through backlinks, which improves search rankings and visibility. And since 64% of website traffic comes from organic search, SEO is crucial. Now, when a third party, especially someone like as influential as Taylor Swift, speaks positively about your brand, it carries more weight than paid promotion. So it's a tale as old as time. Taylor Swift wears an item, the item sells out, brand creator sobs from gratitude and leverages the exposure to the max. So Swift wore FAZEIT's temporary glitter freckles to a Chiefs game, and fans promptly found out where the freckles were sold. And it's been so fun. So as a PR person and marketing, I've been following her, and I encourage you to check it out on Instagram at FAZEIT Beauty, because you can see where they had their 10,000 views on their reels, and now they have like 7 million. So it can change. And that's one of the things that's just so great about this. And so that article, the picture on the screen, which is right here, is a Marie Claire article from October 9th. So I have to remember to click to the slides as I'm talking. So sure. I'm going to have Kelly do it. Yeah, thank you. You just hit it the right. Yeah. Ready? Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so public relations focuses on managing relationships and shaping opinions among key stakeholders of a business, such as customers, investors, and the public. It primarily relies on earned media to achieve this, using strategies like press releases, media outreach, events. While a press release is a key PR tool used to provide newsworthy information to the media, written in a standardized format called AP style. It announces significant developments like new products, events, or partnerships. Where you distribute a press release depends on your goals and target audience, whether it's raising awareness, engaging the community, promoting a product, or managing a crisis. So when to do a press release? Now, a lot of businesses tend to think that their news is ready, but it isn't always, and then they'll find out the hard way when it's not picked up. So I want to cover that before we talk about the how-to. So for major announcements, when to do a press release. So for major announcements, new products, services, events, partnerships, like we're talking about, mergers, awards. But first, ask yourself these questions to decide if it's the right time for you. Is it truly newsworthy? Would journalists and the public in your industry find this interesting and relevant? Does it have the potential to affect your industry or community in a meaningful way? Is it timely and aligned with current trends? Do you have supported facts, data, and quotes? Will press coverage help you meet your business goals right now? Once it's out there, will you be ready to meet the demand? So that's something I often mention is like, this is great, let's do it, but are you ready? Is your website ready? Can you deliver? You don't want to put it out and have this great opportunity and not be able to take care of your customers. So timing is key. So we have Christiana here today. So for example, let's say your new book hits #1 in a category on Amazon and you're hosting a local book launch event. Use that achievement as an angle for your press release. Dr. Christiana Schroeder wrote How to Master Your Goals. It has already received nearly 100 5-star reviews. She received good press coverage after sending out a press release using the email subject, exciting local story. Author's book hits #1 on Amazon. So congratulations to her. And that takes me to now, how do you find your unique story angle? So a big part of this is really finding your angle is so important. So I'm going to start with that. So first of all, what I like to encourage people to do when I'm meeting is kind of step back from your own perspective in your business and approach your story assuming the audience doesn't know anything about you. It's just such a great way to go because we often overlook things that are just like, hey, this is part of our daily life, or this is a way we talk about or use a term. So don't take that for granted, and ask yourself what sets you apart from your competition. Is it innovation, social impacts, solving a problem? Are you an expert in your field? Unique personal experience? And what is a compelling way to introduce this key advantage to your audiences? And so it's really good to spend time on this, brainstorm, make a list, talk to other people, ask, what do you think my angle is? What do you think is different about my business? And get that feedback. So one example is, this is a client that I've had for a long time. And so this is a great example of what sets you apart. Six Rivers Brewery, they're located in Humboldt County. And I've been working with them for about 15 years. So for a long time, the craft beer industry was very male dominated, especially back in 2010. And they were one of only 2 all-women owned breweries in California. So that was our unique story angle. And actually the only other one happened to be there too, Lost Coast Brewery. I know they're bigger, so you might have seen them in the stores. But our initial press release about this, our initial press release about this led to them getting invited to LA Fashion Weekend, which I went to with them. And it was a launch pad that led to national press, TV product placement, Oscar and Emmy gift suites, plus a ton of industry press. And they just celebrated 20 years in business. So really small company, the right opportunity. They saw this. They said it was a woman running LA Fashion Weekend. She was really supporting women-owned businesses and said, I want you guys there. And we met all kinds of celebrities and influencers. And it was just exciting to take this idea and launch it. So that's an old article from 2010. And they have it framed when you walk into their brewery. It's still on the wall. So that's pretty cool. So now section 2, crafting your press release. Now, forgive me while we get into some technicalities, but it's really important. What is AP style and why it matters? Now, you can look at the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, or even Slow's New Times, and the format will be the same. And that's because everyone uses what is called AP style. It refers, there we go. It refers to the writing guidelines established by the Associated Press for journalists, writers, and public relations professionals, and it's the media standard. The style book covers rules for grammar, punctuation, spelling. It's this big communication Bible, so to speak. And every time I see it, I think of college because we had to carry it with us. And if we had one fact error, we would get an F on our paper. So following AP style makes your release easier to work with from a journalist perspective, which means it's easier for them to pick up your story. And honestly, what will happen is they'll take your press release and then might paste it in, not paste it in, we call it that because you used to actually paste it into the newspaper and mock it up, but they will take it and use it almost word for word, often maybe just changing your headline or a few key things, but it makes it so ready to go. And so that's one of the big pluses of doing this. Also checking for, is your press release formatted for AP style? Even ChatGPT, you can use some AI tools for that. So we're going to get more into that later. I want to recommend afterwards you look at this PR Newswire's article about how to write an AP style press release, format and examples. They really do a deep dive on the template and the key terminology, how you do a date, how you attribute a quote. And it can be mind numbing, but also if you just look at the basics, I think that will give you good information. So crafting your release to attract that earned media. Now that you've determined you have news, let's craft your release to really attract them. And we've talked about goals, but knowing your end goal before you start and defining your why is going to be really important. So set clear goals for your press release to guide the tone, content, quotes, your photos, and distribution. As we've mentioned, your goals might be brand awareness, or introducing a new product or service, announcing a milestone, community partnership, or a big event. So are you going to use traditional media, industry publications, certain influencers, and maybe all the above? So once you determine your why, you'll start to develop your content strategy and your visual elements. So, so key tips for writing an engaged and newsworthy press release. So you're going to, now that you have your why, so let's see, it's time to write it. So you're going to start with a strong angle. And I'm going to show you that AP style press release template, but I want to talk about tips for writing a newsworthy press release first. So you're going to start strong. The headline along with your opening paragraph should tell an engaging story. You have to grab the reporter's attention in a sea of received emails every day. And of course, that's going to even start with the email subject. But you're going to explain why this news matters with real life examples or statistics, incorporate quotes from stakeholders, experts for credibility, even your customers, include relevant images, video, infographics. And keep in mind, and I've had this happen a lot with my clients, sometimes they may only select your photo. So you always want to write a caption and you want to have a photo credit. They will not run a photo if there's not a photo credit. So if you took the photo, that's okay. You just say courtesy photo by and your name or your business name. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen a very large photo and a caption and not much of a story. So I really stress that it's important to always include multimedia with your press release. So also you want to make sure it's optimized for SEO using relevant keywords, and it should fit on one page. So the standard is kind of 250 to 400 words, and always shorten it as possible. Make sure it just has no fluff, the key information in there. So now let's look, and this is obviously a lot for the screen, but I have to show it to you so we can talk about it, but this is going to be in that resource folder so you can look at it on in a larger view. So a proper press release format includes a headline, and again, you want to have like 70 to 75 characters, strong action verb, introductory paragraph, body paragraphs, 2 to 3, quotes, a boilerplate, and media contact information. So the compelling headline is, we'll get more into that, but the lead paragraph, you're going to summarize the most important news in 1 to 2 sentences, and it goes back to what we learned when we were in school, the who, what, when, where, and why. Be creative in your lead. Think of your angle and have a good hook to grab their attention. And then, of course, the body paragraphs are going to provide the additional details, a quote or two, supporting information. And you're going to use strong verbs and an active voice and keep your paragraphs concise and focused. So when you're thinking about those quotes, think, what does this matter to the reader? Why is this important? And also what I love about quotes is it's an opportunity for you to have an opinion. The rest of your news release is factual, but your quote is your opportunity to use those adjectives and to express excitement or a position that a newspaper can't do on your behalf. So include that call to action. Tell the reader what to do next, such as visit your website or contact person. And then the boilerplate is the about. It's a brief paragraph at the end that highlights your company and its core business information. It should be about 100 words or less. Now the 3-pound signs, this means that the information meant for the public is done. You center that. And the bottom, and then below are the resources for the journalists. So that's where you're going to have your information about your multimedia, your photo credits, and I recommend doing this. What I've done is you do a Google folder containing the images for download, and that can be in a press kit, and we'll talk more about that later. And then the media contact needs to be on there, and this is just for the reporter, not the general public. So do include your cell phone, your personal email, because often what will happen is you might not get a chance. If they can't get a hold of you, then they won't have you in the story if they're trying to follow up about something. So let's see. So I wanted to mention again, just to refer back to the template that will be in this resource folder and the news article that will give you more details. And I'm sorry, I have some notes. I'm like, don't forget to say this. So a well-written and formatted press release is key. It's really why we're all here and getting this information. So we have a lot to cover, and I don't want to dwell on it too long, but I do want to make sure you feel like you have questions answered. So if there's something we could talk about in a bit, we're going to ask some questions. So next one is write a strong headline, and you're going to keep it concise, 75 characters, and that is because Google and email subject lines will cut off the text beyond that. So the highest number of page views also occurs for releases with shorter headlines. Include action words in your headline to convey a sense of action and urgency. And you might want to avoid the word announce. It's the most used action verb in headlines and correlates with the least amount of views. Words like show, reveal, and allow are some of the least used, but get the most views. Launch remains somewhere in the middle. And again, incorporating those relevant keywords is important. And highlight the news if you can. Clearly communicate the most important aspect of the news in your headline. And then test different options for the headline. This is a great use for AI, brainstorm. And you can make a list of 10 or say what feels best, but make sure it's authentic to you. Don't just run with something because, use your instinct on that. So let's look at some common mistakes to avoid. So you're going to avoid except for quotes. You're going to avoid adjectives for the most part. You never use exclamation points or emojis. You're going to stick to the facts. Never ask a question in the headline. Don't use first person. You're going to use third person speech, and really avoid making it sound like a sales pitch. I've seen those where you're like, this is obviously not news. And so you want to avoid excessive industry terms, jargon, like we were saying, and don't use acronyms or abbreviations without writing them out first, like the National Science Foundation, as you see it on the screen. Again, you want to use AP style formatting. Don't avoid, skip that. Now, I'm kind of old school, I guess, but I always want you to print out your press release because so many errors can happen on the screen versus the printed page. So take the time to print it. Have someone else, second set of eyes, look at it. We often will gloss over something because it's our own work. So, and then don't make the readers dig for the key information, and make it easy for journalists to follow up by always providing the clear contact information. And again, I was saying earlier, like you'll see, no comment, couldn't reach them by deadline, didn't get a response. And you're like, oh gosh, they didn't. You have to be ready to answer that phone or text. So these tips are also in the folder with these templates. So you'll find that in there. Now, this is, and I'm not a graphic designer, so forgive the busyness of the screen, but I did want to convey this, a great example of press release driven coverage. Okay, so Precision Construction is a large construction company in SLO, and they do huge projects. So they've been featured in this the fastest growing businesses in the United States. They've been covered for 3 years. And Highview Solutions, which I think was Cal Poly Incubator Group, has also been in there twice. And so the reason I wanted to show this is if you look at the photos, so this is likely they sent this out as a press release to Caitlin Leslie, who covers local business for the Tribune. And I think, this is my just deducing here, she reached out to the other local businesses on the list. A few didn't reply, missed opportunity. The signs that it's a press release, courtesy photos. This construction company is building the pad, which is one of the largest businesses. And you can see they say the construction's being done by them. So they put another business forward, but it's for their benefit. And then you'll see the highlighted areas according to the news release. And so I looked at the Precision, and they have a press page and About Us, but there's no contact information for the media. So you can see this, but it's missing some key elements. And then Highview, they said, according to their website, so they didn't have a press kit at all or press page. And so they had to kind of scour their website to get this information. So after today, you're going to be kind of a step ahead of that because you're going to have all these tools to have this professional presence online. So I wanted to just outline an example of maybe I'm nerdy doing this, but I do love it. And I used to, when I taught this class back in the day, I would bring like a stack of newspapers and I'd say what percentage of the articles were actually press releases and why you can tell. So okay, so let's talk about using AI to beat writer's block. Now, have any of you used AI for writing? Yeah. So we can use AI to beat writer's block, but it should always be a supplement to and not a replacement for your authentic voice. Plus now AI created content is getting flagged through AI detector programs like Quillbot. So for some good uses for AI could be idea generation for starting a draft or headline options, getting ideas for an email pitch from your created release, editing, proofreading, grammar and spell checks, checking for AP style formatting, improving the clarity or paring down or repurposing your content. So if you want to use your press release and you want to write social media posts from it, or you want to write a blog, or you want to use it for email marketing. So these are opportunities to repurpose what you've written, but it's your authentic voice being edited. So also AI can help suggest relevant keywords and phrases to improve search visibility, and it can tailor your content to match your brand's voice and your audience. So I'm going to show you a few examples, and I'm going to check and see how I'm doing on my time here. So about 30 minutes in. So we will have questions soon, but so I want to show you the wrong way to write a prompt. So it's a huge time saver if you know what you need. So first, the wrong way. So I was just kind of playing around, and my prompt said, I would like to write a press release about the benefits to small business owners and working with the Small Business Development Center's advisors at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. Highlight the program's offerings and include a quote from the interim director, Liz Fisher. So I didn't specify AP style. I didn't specify the tone of the release. And I said, I didn't know that AP style used bullet points. So I get this generated result and it's not formatted properly. It has the bullet points. It has these subheadings, which you'll never see. So I thought, well, if you don't know, oops, sorry, someone's coming in. Got it? Okay. So if you don't know to ask about AP style or what you're looking for, you could send this out and it's kind of a clear giveaway that it was used, that ChatGPT generated it. So when I asked, I didn't know that bullet points were used. ChatGPT, you're correct. AP style doesn't typically use bullet points. And would you like me to generate it again? So we tried 2 more revisions, but they still weren't right because my prompt wasn't specific from the start. So when I specifically asked for the AP style formatting, my result was a bit better, but I had this great quote from our Liz Fisher, but I was curious, so where did you find these quotes? And they are placeholders that were used for illustrative purposes. So these are not real. And can you imagine if you ran with those and used them thinking, oh, those must be out on the internet somewhere, and they weren't approved. So fact checking is key. However, AI can be helpful in pulling quotes from other mediums, such as an interview or a webinar, and taking your genuine content and editing it into a different format. So it can be a great time saver. As a publicist, I often will suggest quotes I've written for my client and they approve them. So you can see the benefits to suggesting quotes in the writing process. So before entering your prompt, ask yourself these questions. What is the goal of your press release? What key information do you want to communicate? Who is your press release intended for? And what tone do you want to use? Now, AI should never replace your authentic voice. And it was really hard to write this section of the presentation, to be honest, because I want to give you this information, but I also want to make sure we're not relying on it as creators, because it's changing a lot of what's online. So I'll show you a little bit more about that later. Now, just to kind of go over the right way to do this prompt. So I wrote this new prompt and I tell who I am, the tone that I want, AP style, more details about the information I want to convey to the media and my target audience, ask for a strong verb headline, 75 characters or less. And so this is formatted what ChatGPT gave me. I just put it into Google Docs so you could see pretty darn close. Now you can use that as a starting point and go in and make it your own. Of course, get the quotes approved, but it gives you a place to say, okay, instead of starting with that blank page where we just sit there and go, oh, this is so hard, you've already gotten some tools to get you moving in the right direction. So just to kind of wrap up on AI, it cannot replace human connection or your passion for your business. I wanted to share, I was doing some research on AI's impact on journalism, PR, and media relations. And this was kind of an interesting story. So the chart shows you how previously uncommon adjectives dramatically grew by 20,000% in 2 months after ChatGPT started. So most recently, even Sports Illustrated found itself at the center of a scandal after it was accused of running articles written by AI, including bylines by fake authors with headshots and biographies. So needless to say, after the scandal broke, the publisher fired the magazine's CEO. So we're going to see where this goes, AI, in the coming years. And if we're all going and getting content that was generated by AI and then quoting that content and calling it fact, you know, it just is a slippery slope. So as we'll see how that kind of plays out. But I hope that has been helpful. Now, the next thing I want to do is, here we go. We've written your beautiful press release. Now what? So before we move on, I want to get some 5 minutes maybe for questions. It is kind of hard doing this and not seeing everyone out there. So if I'm talking way too loud, I'd love some feedback, how it's going out there for all of you at home or in your offices. So do you guys have any questions?
If you have a couple different demographics, how do you choose which? Do you send out multiple press releases?
Great question.
Could be kind of competing.
Yeah. So if you have multiple demographics or multiple audiences you're going after, what would you want to do? You'd want to position that news for that audience. I would suggest writing them. And I do often write maybe 2 or 3 different versions of the angle, the hook, and what you're looking to accomplish with that press release. Are you trying to drive people to your website? Are you creating awareness? Are you solving a problem? So I definitely would be specific and take the time to do different versions of that. And then look at your the audience, where you're sending it, the publications. That would be a great conversation to have about distribution, which we'll get into, but talking more about angles and like generating a list of, 50 places to send it.
Okay.
And yeah, so good question. Anyone else?
No, everyone online said that it sounds good, and they said thank you for repeating the questions.
The one thing I was going to say that you had mentioned to me previously was just how many mistakes AI makes. And so you take for granted, and because I think when you're so close to it, you miss it. But the idea that they're running and they're just going out and searching data, and so why it has to be in your authentic voice, because that AI is becomes so generic in tone, and people sense it.
You're right. And I skipped that. Actually, I wanted to mention that. No, but I was like, if everyone is producing the same content, then who wants to read that? And it just got me thinking about the reader, us. We want to read something engaging and interesting that takes time. And my son was having, my son's in high school, and we were having a conversation about AI because he just absolutely resists it and doesn't ever use it. Of course, they now have plagiarism. You can run your paper through a plagiarizing, like the AI detector. And he said, Mom, if it's a ship and then you take all the pieces of the ship apart and then you put different pieces on the ship, is it still the same ship? And I was like, that's so smart. We're taking something, we're breaking it down, we're piecing it back together. So really, we need to remember that content is the star and the story is the star, and it's about storytelling. And yes, this is great for time-saving tools, but giving it up and just saying, here's what I'm writing, let's move on. I think that's a shame, and hopefully we'll see more control over that going forward. Yes.
Thank you. One question online. Would you send different versions to the same newspaper or publisher?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. I wouldn't at the same time. I would give it time. So I would go with my strongest angle, my strongest hook, and I would send that. And if I'm not getting response after following up, I would repackage it. I've done that before. You say, well, this isn't working. Let's go with a new angle. Or let's say the timing isn't right and something happens in current affairs or in the news, and now all of a sudden you're timely. That's also a great time to resend, or send something you've done in the past, didn't get the traction you wanted, and then all of a sudden you have you're a media expert, or you can speak to this topic. So great question, but I would give it a little time. I wouldn't do it at the same moment. I don't know. I love the questions. Fantastic. So now time-wise, let's see. So, and I do know this is a lot to go through, so we're about 40 minutes. Cool. So let's talk about distribution. And first, before we do that, we're going to talk about, so the way we consume news has changed dramatically over the years, as we know. And, it used to be, of course, everyone picked up the paper, and now those papers have gone online. And so let's see how these changes are impacting the distribution channels we select. So 86% of Americans are getting their news from digital devices, and 57% say often. TV news took second place, 63%, 33% say viewing often. So here's some, as you can see in these figures from Pew Research Center, which is a respected bipartisan think tank in Washington, D.C. TV second place, but you can see the trends on the news platform preferences, digital devices, and then television's hanging in there. Radio and print is struggling. And there has been the podcast, and that has been great for getting news. There wasn't as much traction on that than I thought I would see. But just to realize we're writing for digital devices, which is another reason to keep it short and tight, because you're scrolling on a phone or iPad. And so we don't, pick up that big, beautiful paper and take the time at our breakfast table to read it with a cup of coffee and a grapefruit anymore, right? So times have changed, so we need to change too. More than half of US adults are getting their news from social media through their mobile devices, and about a third of US adults say they regularly get news from Facebook and YouTube, outpacing all other sites, which I find this interesting is, of course, TikTok has come into play, and about half of TikTok users under 30 are getting their news and politics, which has doubled since 2020. So I could talk a whole hour about what I read in this data, but I encourage you to check it out because it breaks down all of the where people are getting their news: Nextdoor, Instagram, Reddit. But that's all, it's broken down by age, demographics, gender, political preference. So you can go in there and deep dive if you want to and see really your target audience and where they're getting their news. And of course, this is data one snapshot, but it is from July and August of this year. So it's pretty new. So let's move on to talking more about how we're going to send this beautiful press release out. So believe it or not, writing is actually the easy part, I hate to say, because getting your news picked up often takes more time than writing the release. It is dependent. You have to do the research based on what your goals are and who you're trying to reach. You have to find these journalists to reach out to. And also, once you send, you're going to follow up with them. So this topic could be a whole workshop in itself. There's just so much I could share, but for the sake of time, I'm going to direct you to my example. I have a sample distribution list in the resource folder, and it's a spreadsheet, and it shows some example contacts in there and how I set it up. You might do it your own way. I like a spreadsheet. You can go in there and update it and add and have the different categories, and you can have, when you contact them, you can keep track. And then when you follow up, you can keep track. So that's a good tool. And again, to cover all of these things from press release creation to press kit, I have to walk you through these steps because we can't leave any of these steps out, but I also don't want to, again, so I did want to mention, I don't think I did at the beginning, is if you are an SBDC client and you're working with, you can work with your lead advisor and request to connect with me as a specialist in marketing and PR, and we can work together one-on-one to talk about your unique situation and how we can brainstorm this, because it's definitely worth having that conversation. And if you're not an SBDC client, I encourage you to look into that and see. It's a tremendous resource for our local community. So now you never want to do a bulk send or a BCC, which I'll talk about. But with that said, email tools like Streak for Gmail can help you by tracking when recipients view your release, send bulk emails that look personalized. And I've used it. They have a demo online. You can send 50 a day with a free account. And so you have to really set up your list properly, but it will say, Dear Becky, here's this news I wanted to share with you. It's going to have the links embedded. And what's nice is you can see if it's read, you can see if it's clicked. And but you want to double check it, because it can also, if you are learning or don't know, it can send out like a blank one, and then it can have some. And I did that when I was first learning. I had this. There's a follow-up option, so you can click yes, I'd like to send a follow-up in 3 days, which is awesome. But I accidentally was learning, and I sent the follow-up with nothing in there. And so I used it as an opportunity to connect and say, oh my gosh, I sent that too soon. I meant to send you this. And it gave me a chance to have like a human connection, and it actually worked out okay. So sometimes our mistakes can be a learning opportunity, but also a good thing. So let me explain some distribution timelines. So when to send it out, it depends on your story. And so the standard lead time for print and TV, it really, again, it totally depends. Are you doing an event? It depends on your topic. But if you're trying to go for a beautiful print magazine, Sunset Magazine, for example, you're looking at like a 4 to 5 month timeline because they're created much more in the, they have a longer production time. So if you're hoping the release will pique the reporter's interest to an in-depth interview, I send it at least 3 weeks out. Now, TV, that said, they really are a last minute. So even though you're going to send it out 2 weeks before, they really won't schedule it until it gets closer to your event. And it also depends on their coverage demands. You can have an interview set up and a fire breaks out, and their skeleton crew of reporters, journalists that are often covering the story if you're in a smaller market and getting back to that news desk. So you might lose it, but just to keep in mind, always expect to follow up with the media in 3 to 5 days. And I have to say, KSBY is amazing for covering local events. I've worked with one of their reporters, Mackenzie Diaz, and others, and they're totally interested and will do what they can to support the business community. So they will often come to your event, like they'll come to the event and maybe cover it after. So they're not the best for generating pre-publicity for your event, but it's a great way to tell the community about it or interview you and you've done this fantastic event and then tell the community about it. So they have that. And then for sending out your press release, you want to avoid Fridays, the weekend, first thing Monday morning. Think about your inbox. The last thing you want is to spend all this time and energy writing this beautiful message and then they don't see it. So I like to send Wednesdays and Thursdays, and my go-to is morning, midday, mid-morning to midday, not in the evening or overnight. And so one cool thing is Google Alerts. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Google Alerts, but you just go into Google, set up alerts, and you enter your business name, your competitors' names, your ex's name, whoever you want to track. But just kidding on that. But it's really nice. You'll see your Google Daily Digest, and you'll see, you're featured in the news or online somewhere. So it's a great way to keep track. That's actually how Christiana, I was looking and I saw that you'd been in the Santa Barbara Independent, and I was like, do you have Google Alerts for yours?
I used to use it a lot when I wrote my dissertation, so this is really cool.
Okay, cool. I thought I had to again say, don't take it for granted. Everyone might know about it, but if you don't, I want to make sure you do. So cool. Okay, so now email distribution tips. This is a little bit, there's 2 ways to do it, so I'm going to just kind of try to break it down. And I do want to stress, and this is the hard thing about PR. We work hard to do it, and it's definitely worth it. It's a process, but it is not a guarantee that your press is going to run, as we know. So to have your best chance, I like to follow these strategies. So after building your distribution list, you'll send a personalized email to each of these contacts. Again, not a BCC, and you'll say, gosh, this takes so long. It is worth it. One way I like to do it to save time is I open a Google Doc and I write my message, my general message in there, so I can just paste it in for each message, and then I have my personalized greeting in the first sentence. So that's one way to just save some time, if that makes sense. So your email subject has to be strong, and it's what's going to determine if they're going to open it, if they're not going to open it. So really spend time on that. And my example I share isn't the strongest one, but I was just trying to grab something I had. This was an International Women's Day for my client, Six Rivers Brewery, for their 20th anniversary. So I said, cheers to women-owned breweries, just to kind of get their attention. So it is a little long, so it breaks my rule, but I also think it was effective. She ran the story. She was interested and excited about it. So, so this is one example of how you can do it. So when you're sending things out, you're going to do your email subject, your email greeting, and then you're going to attach a link to your press kit, ideally, or your press release and your photos. So I showed you an example of what those links look like. and I'm going to send them to a public drive that's editable, that they can go shareable, that they can go in and copy your information. It will have your photos, your quotes, maybe additional photos. You can have other assets, pictures of, like in their case, pictures of their event or their beer or their logo. So you have that information in there. And then I do paste the press release down below. It makes it long, but I like to have it in there because they can quickly scan it and then decide if they want to click in versus just counting on them to click in and read it. So let's see. So what I want to kind of mention is this is its own thing, but I also want to talk about pitching. So before I move, should I ask questions? Does that make sense to you guys, what I'm explaining there? Okay. So let's go on to, for larger media outlets and influencers and other people that you're going to reach out to, you're going to send a pitch. So this is a different way. So this is the second way. So a media pitch is a short message, typically an email or a DM suggesting a news story or collaboration. And a lot of larger media outlets, LA Times, the Chronicle, sometimes they don't have the reporters' emails and it's harder to find. So, or they'll just want you to do a pitch. So sometimes they'll say, we only accept pitches. Here's how you contact us. For example, Sunset Magazine, they only allow pitches and they have an email for that. Sometimes there's just the contact form. So as you learn in your you'll learn this in your research, and you're going to have to get a little bit creative on how to reach them. So if you're already following them on social media, that's great, because it's also going to give you that relationship opportunity to say, hey, I love how you cover this subject, or you're so funny, or you brought my attention to this. Here's my pitch, and you don't say, here's my pitch, but you say, I want to talk to you about this story. So when you are sending it by in an email or sending a contact, you can say pitch : and then what you're talking about. So that's where you're going to have, like, the email subject is going to be really brief, but you're going to have pitch all in caps. I did put that somewhere. I don't know if it made it onto the slides, but so the reason I'm saying read Muck Rack's article on how to write a media pitch is because they are a very well-respected PR platform that does pitching for companies like Patagonia, Duolingo, all these amazing corporations that we know about. So obviously they do a great job. They're well rated, and muckrack.com. So they have this article that just beautifully lays out, here's an example pitch. Here's an example of how to connect and say, oh, this story you wrote about peppermint tea. Oh, and then make the connection, so it just shows just practical advice on how to do it yourself. And so please check that out. It's in the resource folder. And again, pitching, this is a larger conversation. So I'd love to talk to you one-on-one and have this conversation at a different time to help you get the pitch topics that you're looking for, talk through the process of who you're trying to reach. So now I want to show you an example. This is a local company, Hut Inc. And so Timon is the owner, and he's just super hardworking and driven and creative. He's amazing. So his dream was to be in Dwell magazine, and he had his first project that he did in Paso Robles. So he's just starting, and he said, I want to be in Dwell. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll try. So I pitched Dwell, and they only accept pitches. They had a whole thing. This is how you can contact us. It was a few steps, not a big deal. But I sent it out, and the news editor responded to our pitch asking if we could send him our press kit and our image gallery. So he was so new, he didn't have a press kit yet. And the images that we'd shared, they felt were too commercial for their audience. So they're a lifestyle publication, and the pictures that he'd been able to afford to take were beautiful, but they were more of showing the details of the project instead of showing someone in the space, enjoying the space, doing yoga, for example. So it wasn't a match. So he wanted new pictures, and then he wanted this press kit. So we scrambled over the weekend and created this simple press kit, and it's totally doable. So after that, he asked, I want to run an exclusive on this story. And Timon paid for some new photos. He staged it, and they did this story, and it led to many inquiry calls for him and more press coverage. And it just kind of goes back to the importance of the press kit and journalist requests. Timon was willing to hustle to make it happen. And I was like, hey man, this is why this is happening, because you're doing the work and you believe you're going to like make it come together. So I did kind of, as I was writing this presentation, I started, I was looking at some of the other success stories in the area. And I was, I know you guys all know who she is, I'm sure, but Haley, the CEO, founder of Passion Footwear. So she was, before I got to the local SBDC, I know she was working with the incubator program, Cal Poly grad. So she'd said in an article, the only thing all successful people have in common is that no matter what, they've never given up. Resilience is the key to success. So so she, in 2022, her net revenue was 2.7 million. She's on track this year to double that. She's just all over Forbes 30 under 30. And her angle for her story, I thought was so cool, because this is in every story you read. She was in her sorority. They had gone to a dance, and she was wearing her 6-inch heels, and she kicked them off to dance. Everyone's barefoot, because who's going to bring a separate pair of shoes in your little purse, right? So a stiletto went through her foot or her toe. Someone stepped on her toe, and she thought there has to be a better way. So she created a convertible shoe. So it converts from a heel to a flat. And I just think she's just really impressive. And if you want to follow her online and just see what her journey is, she was on Shark Tank, she turned it down, was offered money, said no thanks, used that exposure to totally leverage her business. So, and she's 28. So congratulations to her. So also congratulations to you. You now have press coverage. You followed these steps. You have your coverage. Okay, now where are we going to share it? So let's talk, first of all, again, I am an old fashioned, I guess I'm kind of old school with this, but I love to do thank you notes and thank yous, and they do really matter. Usually people just hear a critique. So when your press runs, please send an email thank you, or even a card saying that how much you appreciated it. If they got a few little things wrong, overlook it, but say thank you. This meant a lot, because guess what? When you have press again, you're going to go back to them and they're going to remember that you were great to work with. So now you have this press, so you're going to share it far and wide, maybe LinkedIn, social media. You can use it in your email marketing campaigns. You can send out letters to your stakeholders. Like I showed, you can hang the sign in your business. If you have a brick and mortar, tell your mom, she'll share it on Facebook. But, as many places as you can have this press live on. And the best way you can have it live on is on your press page. So now we're going to talk about press and media pages, newsrooms, and again, press kits. So again, I want to see, how are we doing on time? Pretty good. Do we want to ask some questions? Any questions from this? I'm sure it's a lot to.
You said something about social media, and it just really hit me about, as you're doing your research and find out who these contact people are, that you are following them. I'm in the middle of reading the book that the SBDC gives out and it's on investors. And it's like, now that you're reading my book, follow me, because you're saying Sunset Magazine or whatever the local publication is. Not only do you get to understand what they cover, you understand what their priorities are, what they're looking for.
Can I hear you with that too? Let's pass that along. Okay, yeah. Okay.
And it just made me realize how important following the people you want covering you is.
Yes.
So that you're speaking their language and you're time sensitive. What are they covering right now? What seems to be topical?
I'm so glad you brought that up, and I kind of glossed over that. I do that a lot, and I will also follow and respond. If you can respond outside of the window you're doing your press, so they see you replying. It's not always, you can't always do that, but say like LA Times, we were pitching the hut to LA Times, and I went to the head of the editor of the gardening and lifestyle, and I looked at maybe her last 5 articles that she'd written, and then I wrote her and I said, I really like how you're talking about ADUs and how this is changing and environmental sustainability, and I said, I have this great, pitch for you, story for you. And she responded, and she was interested. And the only reason the story didn't run is because there wasn't, he didn't have an example in the LA area. They wanted to go take pictures and see this, and he didn't have one of these huts, rooms, what they're called, built down there. So that's exactly it. You want to follow. And so I do really take time to research their story, follow on social, like their content, or say, gosh, that's what a great insight, or congratulations on this. And you can now do, of course, Twitter or X is where we would go, to find people, because, that's the only social media platform where you don't have to be connected really to go and you can kind of follow. It's more professional. I like that. But also LinkedIn is becoming more and more. I think LinkedIn is really showing us that it is the next social media for businesses. It already is really, but it's just, I think, just tremendously growing. And in that, the stats that I was talking about earlier, 55% of LinkedIn people have a college degree. So I thought that was interesting too. So really, where you're going to be, what is your product? What is your angle? Where your people are? I know there's a lot of tourism industry. So you have people that are writing about the area, SlowCal. And I don't know, Gina, is Gina on Hambly Farms, Hambly Lavender? Yeah. Hi, Gina. So Gina has done an incredible job with Hambly Lavender Farms up in San Miguel and has gotten a ton of press, and they work with SlowCal. So SlowCal will send pitches like, this is what we're working on for bringing people to the area. And you can sign up for being on SlowCal and be a member, and you'll be able to see what who they're attracting to the area. Like maybe they're trying to bring groups of women that are traveling after their partners have died, and they're trying to bring, or women just getting, retired. They want to come into the area, whatever it is. And they'll say, this is our pitch. We're working on this. So we're trying to get people that are traveling by electric vehicle, or going camping with their kids, or they want to do a classic vacation. What do you have? So you can respond to their pitches that they're putting out. And that always is a great thing. And there's also something called Help a Reporter Out, and it's a website that you can follow, and they have pitches. They're constantly posting for all different types of industries. So like if you're in pet care, or if you're in business coaching, you can go and they'll say, this reporter's looking for this angle, this story idea, and you can sign up for alerts through, it's HARO, Help a Reporter Out. And when I'm working actively for a client, I do go on that, and I should have mentioned it sooner, but so yeah, always, if there's a story they're looking to fill, of course, that's so much easier than presenting your story. Do you have a question from the
Yeah,
online?
first comment from online, Gina said hi. And she said, great idea to follow the press you're looking to get published by and the writers. And then had one question online from attendee. Do you think that Google Drive is a sufficiently professional platform for press kits? Or do you recommend a different place to create your press kit and data room?
That's a great question. It's totally up to personal preference. And Dropbox is another one. I am seeing corporations using Google Drive, which I'll show in an example. I like it because it's accessible for small businesses, and it's free, and it is clean to use. There are, as we talk about building your press kit, I'm going to show a few different ways to do it, but you can embed it into your website. You can have it beautifully done with icons. Like if you're an art, if you're a company that is, if you're tech and you're going to have this real professional presence, or maybe you're in the arts and you want to have something a little bit more whimsical and visuals driven, then they're going to be two different goals. So it depends on your industry and what your information is that you're putting together. So I'd say I do think it's professional enough because I've seen it done, but I also hear you that you might want to do something that's more individual to your business and beautifully packaged. And that's where you can do PDFs, or you can do embedded video, or the branding icons. So we'll look at that as we're moving forward. So cool. I love these questions. Any other ones? Okay, now let's get into section 4 and 5, press kits and press pages. So why do you need a press kit? So when pitching influencers and journalists to attracting even potential investors, being able to, oh, can you go to the, sorry, I kind of jumped over that one. I'm sorry.
I should be watching it.
No, you know what? That's the only one I didn't have notes on. So thank you, Kelly. Thank you for helping click. Yeah. So these are the things she was showing you what we're going to jump into. And so why do you need a press kit? So you can even use it for, like I said, attracting potential investors. It really shows how your professionalism, your team. It can also take you a small business and elevate it, make it look bigger. Being able to direct them to your press kit is a big plus, namely because you're controlling your message. your image and that professionalism is just really can set you apart. So press kits are going to be housed on your press page or your newsroom. And you can also send out your press kit with your press release, like we were talking about, as a pitch specific or topic specific press kit. So there's going to be two, and we'll talk about it, kind of this umbrella press kit that has all of your information. And then you're going to maybe like do a spot press kit that's going to cover that specific thing you're promoting. So I like it because it streamlines the media's ability to cover your story, making it easier for them to find you. Everything's in one place, and it increases your odds of getting great coverage. So that's all win-win-win. So I'm going to show you an example of one of our SBDC clients, Jamie. And Jamie is opening the Caffeinated Cat here in Grover Beach. And so this is an example of her press and media page. We worked together on this. She's such a go-getter. She's working so hard to bring this. If you're not following them, follow them on Instagram and see their journey. So they're going to be partnering, bringing rescue kittens to basically it's a coffee shop where you're also going to be able to spend time with these kittens that are up for adoption. So it's such a cool idea. So she needed to promote a Kickstarter. So she announced her press through, used the Kickstarter as her angle, and she was able to get radio interviews, get some press coverage. Some said, hey, contact me when you're open, and then that's kind of a 2-for-1, because then they're going to come back and cover it again. And I will just say, they had to raise this money. If they didn't get the whole Kickstarter, it wasn't going to be funded. And so the day before, she needed almost half of her money. And I was like, oh my gosh. So she reaches out, and I said, go back to everyone that you already met with the press and get some more coverage. So she went back to Dave Congleton. He had her on again with the hometown radio, KVEC. And between that and her social media push, they made their goal. It was like, I was tearing up. It was so exciting in the 11th hour. But that's, again, the power of PR. Look at that. And their social media, she has a huge following. People are very supportive. So congrats to her. I know they're opening soon. But so an online newsroom or press page is a web page that houses, all of your press over time and contains this key information. Now, she hasn't gotten her press kit done yet, and that's okay. But she has what I want everyone to do first, and that is you have an email address for media. So you need to have, before anything, you want to have this email address and try to make it sound professional, like media or social, or do something that's not just your name if you can, because it just shows you're a bigger company than one person, but not necessary. So you want to have that, and then you can put a few elements like your press and a description at the top. I know that's a little bit small to read, but you can look at it, and I have a link to this in the resource folder. And what else did I want to say about it? Let's see. I think that's about it. So that's one way to do it. Oh, the difference between kind of an online newsroom and a press page, they're really interchangeable. I think that, and I've even seen press room, they're really the same thing, but I think it depends on your industry. Like, for example, I looked at like National Science Foundation as an example. They call it a newsroom. If you're in a certain industry that's more formal or professional, you're going to call it maybe a newsroom, or maybe press media. It really fits what your brand is and the tone of your communication. So don't think it has to be this one thing. It can be these, kind of an iteration of what works for your brand. Okay, so the benefits of the online press room is your brand, your way. You control the narrative, and you're the go-to press resource. And it's for all these different customers, investors, stakeholders, bloggers. I mean, it is just so great. You never know well, you will with analytics, but you never know who's going to be going there needing it. So I think it's just such a smart way to go. Contains all your approved materials. And now I want to mention that, and again, unlike actual news coverage, this is where it's what you want, what you don't want, what you want the public to see. Now, in my research, putting this together, and I have this online, I have a Create Your Digital Press Kit template that I've created. But there's an article in there from Shopify on how to make press kit and some templates. There's 9 examples of all different kinds of press rooms, press pages, and how to, based on different industries. And so I'll show you that as after this next slide, I want to show you the Google version that we were talking about. So what to include in your newsroom's press kit. So again, it depends on the industry. If you're, in the arts versus tech, usually you'll include company story and mission, facts, your branded marketing assets, team bios, media mentions, press releases, featured articles, and interviews. So what's cool is you feature your news coverage, and then maybe things that didn't get picked up or didn't get picked up in full, you still have all your press releases there too. So it's work that hasn't been lost. When pitching, emailing the media, like I said, you're going to send the press kit link specific to the release or the topic, but you'll also have this larger view of your company. So again, read the article in Shopify in my template and see these examples. So the formats that you can do is the shareable file drive, Google Drive or Dropbox, and that's a public view. It's editable, it's shareable, and then you can do a downloadable PDF files or folders on your website, or a press kit as branded icons or links. And so you'll see those different examples. But the next one is Headspace, which is a pretty big company. They're, I recommend you look at this. They're I don't even know, they're an app that you do about meditation. Okay, so they're a big company, and they're using Google. So a lot of times the press page is kind of hidden in the About Us or in the footer. If you look, you'll see at the very bottom, the press is there, third one down on About Us, press. So it might say press and media. Sometimes it's just in an About tab on your website. Sometimes it's in the footer. So people will do it different ways. But so when you click on press in the footer, this is the page you go to, press and media. And you see they have their contact email. Please email if you'd like to get in touch for press or influencer inquiries, and they're welcome. And then when you click into, there's a link that says get our press kit. And so I'll do the next slide and show you that one. So get our press kit is on that same page, and you have photography, bios, logos, fact sheet, screenshots. And so when you go to download, you're going to get their Google link, which is the next slide. Yeah, there we go. So there it is. You have all the different, it's very streamlined. And then you click and say Headspace bios, and you're going to see those bios, which those are PDFs. So I like it. It's clean. It's easy. It's accessible for all small businesses that don't have a lot of money to spend on a graphic designer doing some glossy, beautiful thing, which is great if you can and want to, especially now, if you are doing a trade show or you're going to an event, it is good to take something printed and take something pretty to represent. It can be a smaller version, a lookbook or a 5-inch book that they can take, but printing is expensive, and this is a way to get them there. Now with QR codes, you can also just give them a card and they can scan in and look at it. So makes it accessible for everyone. So Google's one way, like I said, Dropbox. And if you look at Shopify, there's some examples of some lovely companies that have it branded with icons and kind of a different way to look at it. So I encourage you to look at that and just see the examples. It'll be better than me trying to explain them verbally. So I want to show you an example. This is kind of what I call perfectly packaged email example with the email pitch, press release linking to the press kit. This is one of our SBDC clients who has this incredible company, Ben's Automotive Decor. He is in Atascadero, and he's been he takes vintage engines and products from like Lamborghini and Ferrari and turns them into coffee tables, art, and just tools for the bar. And he's absolutely amazing. And he even was, he's in McLaren, he's in HGTV's Windy City Rehab, reached out to him to have one of his coffee tables. So we put some of that in his pitch, his email, to send this out about announcing that he's going to have his gallery opening. And it's a grand opening press release. And he followed the process. We worked on his rough draft. So he sent me a draft. We worked together as SBDC client. We worked, together on creating this final version of his press release and talked through the edits. And then I gave him the press kit template. and kind of the do's and don'ts, and he totally ran with it. And I was so excited for him because he was like, he got so much press. KSBY came out, did an interview. It's still on YouTube. And he was just like, oh, I'll tell anyone anything they need to know. This works so well. So I'm really excited for him because he deserved the press. He has this, if you are ever up in Atascadero, please go check him out or online and see a lot of his work. So yeah, it's brilliant how someone can take something that someone might consider junk and turn it into this absolutely one of a kind piece. Is just the mind of an artist is very cool. So now moving on to some more success stories and answering questions and our key takeaways. So I made this last slide because I really want to encourage you. Oh, first of all, sorry, I'm ahead, right? Let's see, the next, go to the next one. And what comes after that? Okay, so just to remind you, that's going to be the resources from today's workshop. Those are all links in this Google folder that you'll receive. And you can, of course, ask me questions about it, but I wanted to make sure you had a lot of tools to do this yourself after today. I hope you'll feel that it's been helpful. But so the next slide I kind of put together last minute because I want to highlight, and I think, is McCall here? McCall, and I think she was signed up. Yeah,
she's on it.
So McCall's in the top right. And she was she and Nextera Tech won first and second place at AngelCon, which is our big pitching competition. It was just amazing to see them. So she's getting this press, you know, and then of course we have Haley and what she's done. And this is even just one of our clients, Salty Bagel. He does gluten-free bagels. He was just in SF Gate about bringing this gluten-free bagel that's really delicious locally. And then I know about, you probably are familiar with the Spoon Trade here in Grover Beach, and I know their story. They did not even pitch this, but Guy Fieri, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, they wanted to feature them. They actually wanted to feature 4 local businesses. 2 of them said they were too busy to participate. I won't name names. They weren't too busy. And it's been amazing for them. So I was there having lunch and they were telling us the secret before it was out to the public. So I kept a tight lid on it. I was so excited to see this happen for them. But it just shows the power of PR. And the reason that I want to show you this and all these incredible entrepreneurs in our community, like what, you know, that have come from the incubator program, for example, these stories are all earned media. And I want them to inspire you to grab the spotlight because I know you guys can do it. So thank you for coming today. And I just hope that this was valuable for you and that you'll have great successes with these tools. And just a reminder, like I said, you can reach out to your advisor and we can work together after this, or you can also work with me privately. If you're not an SBDC client, my business, Yo Becco, brand cheerleaders and storytellers, this is what I love to do. And what else would I like to say? Just thank you so much. There's the key takeaways, what we covered today, and opportunities don't happen. I know you guys will create them, and just thank you so much. I want to turn it over to questions with the last 10, 15 minutes that we have. And yeah, this was so fun.